Welcome to the Gita in Action podcast. I'm Radha, and I'm here with our family of seekers, and we're reading through the Bhagavad Gita, this ancient yogic wisdom text. We're reading through it verse by verse, really diving in deep to understand the meaning behind these texts and how they still apply to our lives today. Because they're very much so relevant to our lives today. It just takes a little bit of unearthing. So that's where we are with this text. Today we are in chapter 11, and we're going to start with text 5. Chapter 11, text 5. And I was just sharing with everybody right before we came live here that this week, within the next couple days, maybe today, I'm going to launch pilgrimage officially. We're going to go on pilgrimage together in February 2027, February 12th through the 24th. We're going to go to Rishikesh. Hopefully the Kirtan Festival will be going on during that time, and we can check that out amongst some other incredible things we'll be doing in Rishikesh. And then we'll make our way to Jaipur, which is a very spiritual, devotional place, and also just aesthetically, like, and architecturally very beautiful and interesting. So we'll spend a few days there, and then we'll finish in Govardhan in Vrindavan. So it will be ecstatic. We'll have kirtaniyas, we'll have wonderful food, uplifting association, all of the things. So I'm going to send out an information package on that today on all of the threads, today or tomorrow, sometime soon. And if you need more info or you're interested, just send me a message, a DM. So that is pilgrimage. So exciting. And let's go ahead and dig into this text. Before we do that, Poppy, can you say our prayers for us this morning?
Yes. Om Gana Timirandhyasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yana Tasmahi Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manavishtam Stapitam Yana Bhutale Savaim Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sabapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Vata Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanto Radha Kanto Namostute Tattva Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatruvescha Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitanam Pavanaveyu Vaishnaveyu Namo 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 Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swabhami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunnavadi Pashtata Dashatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. はい。
Hey Krishna, that was so beautiful and melodic. Is that the word? Well, it was beautiful. Thank you, Poppy. Very nice. Okay, let's dive in. Let's start right away here. Text 5. So we are chapter 11, text 5. Whenever you're ready, Shrananjali.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Pasyame Partha Rupani Satasota Saharasaha Nana Vidhani Divyani Nana Varna Kritini Cha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, O son of Pritha, see now my opulences, hundreds of thousands of very divine and multicolored forms.
Thank you. So we're in this chapter 11, which is called the universal form. And we're entering a new section today. We'll cover a new section today. And this section is Krishna is kind of priming Arjuna, so to speak, for what he's about to see. So he's kind of preparing him so that when he sees it, he knows what he's seeing. And particularly where we are, it's like have you ever been in a situation where you just wish you could see how everything is going to play out? Like if you could just know the outcome, you'd feel so much more at ease. And this is a tendency that we all have. We want clarity, we want control, we want certainty, right? Anyone can relate to this? And in so many ways, this is the position we're in when we approach something like the Gita. And what's interesting is at this point in the Gita, Arjuna is actually not in that place anymore. He's not in that place anymore. His confusion has been cleared. He understands who Krishna is. He trusts him. So now Arjuna is asking to see Krishna's universal form. And he's not asking out of doubt. He's asking on behalf of everyone else, to help everybody else. He's essentially saying, if you are who you say you are, then show it in a way that leaves no room for confusion, so that people aren't misled. This is kind of the point of this request of Arjuna. And what Krishna reveals in response is something completely unprecedented. It's not just a vision, but it's a direct revelation of reality itself. And through this, we'll see something really important. Through this chapter, and we're going to learn, this is where the chapter is going to take us. We're going to learn just what it means for God to be supreme, and what it means for us to actually trust. That's kind of where we're going in this chapter, the journey through this chapter. So this first verse, we're looking at one of the most extraordinary visions described in the Gita. And arguably it's one of the most profound mystical or supernatural revelations in all of theology. Across all different traditions, there's stories of saints having different visions of God. But what's unique here is that this isn't just an inner experience. This is something that God is actually revealing. It's a visible, direct vision. Okay? And what he reveals is known as the universal form. So what does that even mean? Again, before Arjuna actually sees it, Krishna's preparing him. And that's where we're going with these 4 verses. Krishna's preparing him for what he's about to see. It's like there's an orientation first, because what Arjuna is about to experience is completely beyond anything that's familiar. And this is important because when we see things in this world, we're not just seeing with our eyes, we're seeing with our understanding. Like if you see something totally unfamiliar, you won't actually know what you're looking at. You have to be kind of like orientated to it. And there's all kinds of cases where like someone gains sight after being blind, And at first, like, they don't even know what a face is, like everything just looks like a blur of colors. Like they hear someone speaking and they know speech comes from a face. So they're like, okay, then that's what a face looks like. But they don't have that like in their mind already because they don't have anything to connect it to. So it takes some time. It takes some time to actually make sense of what they're seeing, right? Because we understand new things by connecting them to what we already know. So for Arjuna, imagine Arjuna, he's about to see something that no one has ever seen before, like something with no reference point. So Krishna's giving him a framework first. He's saying like, here, what you're about to see, like here's what you're about to see so that you can actually understand it. And so that's what these opening verses are doing. This is the purpose of this section that we're in. It's just 4 verses where Krishna's kind of giving him an orientation so that he can be prepared to see what he's about to see. And another question is, like, why does Arjuna even want to see this? And like we've been saying, it's not just curiosity. Krishna's been describing his divine nature. We heard that in the last chapter, his opulences, his power. But Arjuna understands something very real about people. And that is that some people have a tendency to doubt everything. And others people have a tendency to believe everything. So how do you actually know what's real? So Arjuna is essentially asking, if someone claims to be God, there should be a way to show it. Not just words, but there should be something undeniable. And so that universal form becomes that standard. So again, it's not just for Arjuna, it's for everyone. So that people aren't misled in either direction. Like he's setting a precedent. Like this is God. And at the same time, it's important to understand what this universal form is, because as incredible as it is, it's still connected to the material world. It's a manifestation of everything in the universe. So just like the universe itself appears and disappears over time, this form is also not eternal. We've talked about how spiritual world is eternal, how the essence of a spiritual quality is eternal. But the universal form, it's material. It's revealed for a purpose, and then it's no longer seen. So this is different from Krishna's personal forms, which are eternal and exist in the spiritual reality. They exist in the spiritual world. So from a devotee's perspective, this isn't really what we're looking for. A devotee isn't walking around thinking, I want to see how vast and powerful everything is. We're not so attracted to that. We're more interested in relationship, in connecting with Krishna in a personal, loving way. This is what we're more interested in terms of relationship with God. We're impressed, when something's vast and powerful. But at the end of the day, we're really seeking relationship. But anyway, Arjuna asks to see this, and Krishna agrees, not because this is the highest way to experience him. The highest way to experience God is in this intimate, personal relationship. But it still serves a purpose. Revealing this form to Arjuna serves a purpose, especially in helping establish his position as the supreme. So that's kind of the overview of where we're going with revealing the universal form and some of the subtleties involved, and where it's taking us. And one more important point that we're going to touch on today as well. I'm kind of giving you all the points up front, and we'll walk through them in more detail and a little bit slower. But one more important point is that this vision isn't just something anyone can see on their own. It's not like you can just train your eyes or develop some skill and suddenly be able to perceive this form. Krishna has to give that ability. He has to give that vision. So even this experience is not something that we achieve. It's something that's given. And this is a theme we'll come back to again and again as we're talking about these verses and the Gita. Spiritual life, revelations, relationship with God. It's not something that we can achieve on our own. It's not something that we can just endeavor and then get successfully. It's something that we have to be given. It's something that we have to be given. It has to be revealed to us. We on our own don't have the capacity. We're finite, but Krishna is infinite. Right? And how does the finite see the infinite, or how does the finite even approach the infinite? Right? It's by revelation. It's by the infinite revealing themselves in a capacity that the finite can understand and connect to, and that is a gift. That is a gift. So that's where we're going with all of this. Does anybody have anything to share before we move on to the next verse? Okay, let's move on. Text 6. When you're ready, Stella. Are you there, Stella? We may have lost her. Does
No,
somebody
no,
else want to
no,
read to
I'm
you?
here.
Are you there? Okay, good.
Sorry, it's like when the cat's on me, I don't have two hands. Um, Pasya yatitan vasunrudran asvinau marutastata bahuni adrista purvani pasyascharani bharata. O best of the Bharatas, see here the different manifestations of Adityas, Vasas, Rudras, Asvini Kumaras, and all the other demigods. Behold the many wonderful things which no one has ever seen or heard of before.
Thank you. Okay, so here Krishna is basically saying, Arjuna, look, see all of this. And what he's pointing to is incredible. He's showing all these major personalities of the universe, all these powerful beings that make up Vedic cosmology. And these aren't just random figures. Many of them were already mentioned earlier when Krishna was describing his opulences in the chapter before. So these are some of the most powerful and influential personalities within the universe. And now Krishna is saying they're all here in one place. Just that alone is extraordinary. Even seeing one of these beings would be rare, but to see them all at once within Krishna, that's something no one has ever experienced before. So when Krishna says, see these wonderful things, it might almost sound like he's praising himself, but he's not exaggerating. He's just like stating a fact. What Arjuna is about to witness is genuinely astonishing. It's something that's never been seen, never been heard of, and it's completely beyond ordinary experience. So this is again what Krishna is kind of priming him up for. And with that, we can move on to the next verse. 7. When you're ready, Stella.
Aihikastvam jagat Krishnam pasyadhyasa characharam mama dehe gudakesha yachana drastam ichasi. O Arjuna, whatever you wish to see, behold at once in this body of mine. This universal form can show you whatever you now desire to see, and whatever you may want to see in the future. Everything, moving and non-moving, is here completely in one place.
Thank you. So here, Krishna says something really powerful to Arjuna. He basically says, whatever you want to see you can see it all in one place within me. So just pause on that for a second. Like everything that exists, moving, non-moving, past, present, even what's about to happen, is all visible in one place. And for us, this is almost impossible to imagine, because normally we can only see what's right in front of us in this moment. And even now with things like the internet, we can stretch that a little. We can sit in one place and see what's happening somewhere else. But we still need a screen, a device, something in between. Krishna's saying, I don't need anything. I don't need anything like that. Everything already exists within him, and he can reveal all of it directly. And what's interesting is that Krishna doesn't just say, I'll show you what you asked for. He goes even further. Arjuna didn't necessarily ask to see the future, but Krishna says, I'll show you that too. And that's nice, because if you think about Arjuna's situation, he's about to enter this massive war. So naturally, there's that question probably exists in the back of his mind, like what's going to happen? What's the outcome going to be? Even if he doesn't say it out loud, Krishna knows that that's there. So what Krishna is doing here is giving Arjuna a kind of temporary expanded vision, a glimpse of what it would be like to see everything at once, not just across space, but across time. But the key point here is that even though Krishna is saying, see this, Arjuna can't actually see it yet. Because again, this isn't something we can perceive with our normal eyes. And this is where Krishna's going to go next. This is what he's going to explain next. That if you want to see something beyond ordinary reality, you need a different kind of vision. And Krishna is the one who gives that. So that's where we're going next. This is just building up. It's getting so exciting. Okay, text 8. When you're ready, Stella.
Natumam sakyase drastam aneneva svachaks usa divyam dadamite kaksu pasyame yogam esvaram. But you cannot see me with your present eyes. Therefore I give you divine eyes. Behold my mystic opulence.
Thank you. So here Krishna makes something really important clear to Arjuna. He says, you can't see me with your present eyes, so I'll give you divine eyes. So in other words, what I'm about to show you isn't something that you can perceive with your normal vision. So up until now, Arjuna's seen things through ordinary human eyes, limited, conditioned, only able to perceive a small slice of reality. So Krishna steps in and says, I'll expand your vision. This is kind of amazing. It's like an access upgrade. Like if we think of like a massive computer system, there's so much information in it, and different users have different levels of access. And we as human beings can only see a small portion. We should understand that. Our vision, our perception, what we can interpret through our senses is just so limited. Okay? There's higher beings in the universe, they can access more. But Krishna, being the supreme, has complete access to everything, the entire system. And you can think of it like a parent and a child. Maybe a child is using a computer with restrictions, and the parent comes in and says, okay, I'm going to give you more access. And suddenly then the child can see things that they couldn't before. The access was given to them. It wasn't like they necessarily even did anything to get the access. The parents just decided that they're ready to get a higher level of access, so they give it to them. Okay? In the same way, Krishna's doing that for Arjuna. He's expanding his access. He's giving him the ability to perceive realities that are normally beyond human capacity. And this is where it gets really interesting. This is like a key point of the chapter that we're gonna zoom in on here, that I really want everyone to understand kind of where we're going with this whole revelation of the universal form. Okay? Even though Krishna is revealing something that's incredible, this vision, the universal form, it's actually still within the material realm. So it's showing the entirety of the universe, all its elements, all its manifestations. And this is very different from Krishna's personal spiritual form, which is full of intimacy and relationship and love. Krishna's on the battlefield. Remember, he's on the battlefield with Arjuna. He's serving as his charioteer. He's a person. He's a friend. He's a guide. He's a teacher. They have this very sweet relationship. And now he's saying, let me show you something that is just going to blow your mind. It's like, and it literally does. Like, Arjuna is like frightful at this sight. I mean, this is a pretty intense scene that's happening here in the Gita. I mean, imagine if like your best friend, your guide, your teacher's like, let me show you a form of mine where you see everything, past, present, future, at everything all at once. That'd be pretty intense. Like, that's like you have this nice friend relationship. It's very sweet. And then they reveal this really just like great but terrifying, vision of everything in the universe. And so the Gita is taking us someplace even deeper through this vision, because naturally we tend to think that greatness means showing power, being impressive, being in control, having others recognize that. This is like a material conditioning takes us here. But Krishna's nature is different. Even though he has unlimited power, he doesn't really delight in displaying it. Krishna delights in love. He understands that if his loved ones were always fully aware of his divinity, it would create a little bit of distance. It would make intimacy harder. So what does he do? He conceals his supremacy, and he appears in a simple human-like form, just to make a relationship possible. This is what he's doing for Arjuna. He may appear like a human on the battlefield, but we know that he's anything but. We know that even his form is such Ananda, is full of bliss, knowledge, eternality. It's not a normal human form. But he covers up how magnificent he is. He covers up these aspects of his supremacy so that he can have this close relationship with his devotees, because that's what he's actually interested in. Arjuna doesn't just see Krishna as God. He has this relationship with him. And Krishna's taken that role, right? By being his charioteer, by being essentially his servant. He's putting himself in that position of service just to reciprocate that love. Because we all know love is expressed through service. So in one sense, this universal form isn't really an upgrade for Arjuna. It's actually a shift away from the intimacy he's used to. Because the universal form shows power and vastness and control, but it's not so easy to feel close to. Just kind of put yourself in Arjuna's shoes for a minute. And you're with your best friend, your teacher, your guide, who you have this very close relationship with, and then they reveal this side of them, this part of themselves to you. And it's very intense, and it's exciting, and it may, like, you may feel your heart race a little bit, and we're going to see Arjuna has some physical symptoms here when he sees this side, but it's a little bit hard to feel close to, because it's so intense, it's so like scary, it's so vast. So what Krishna's interested in is that intimate relationship with us. So this is what he tries to make accessible for us. But at the same time, he wants us to know how great he is. Right? He wants us to know that he is God, that he is the supreme, and he doesn't want us to mistake anybody else for in that role, because we know when we mistake others in that role, we suffer. But again, for a devotee, we don't necessarily want to see how great God is. We want relationship. And Krishna's not interested in impressing people with that power either. He's interested in reciprocating love. But in this moment, he reveals this form for a very specific reason. And this is to set the standard for others, not even for Arjuna necessarily, but to set the standards for others, to show clearly what it actually means when we say that God is supreme. It's like the qualification to really give someone our heart. Give someone our heart fully. We want to know, is this really God? And so Krishna is fulfilling that request here. So it's quite beautiful, and we see this kind of like from all over. We see examples of this all over in our culture, in our society, where people mistake things like power, money, influence, control. They think that will bring them happiness. Even people will like get in relationships with people because of those things. We see this all the time. People get in relationships with people because of those things, not because the relationship is really filling up their heart, but because those things are attracting them. And then we see that the people that do that and aren't really that fulfilled. If you're only in your relationship because that person is powerful or influential, or that's really kind of empty. We know that. We see examples of that. We know that. Because ultimately the highest is love. The highest is selfless service. These are principles that we get to try out in this material world, in our material relationships, and we kind of learn these things from. But Krishna here, he's telling us the highest, right? The highest relationship was with God, and the highest flavor of that relationship is in this mood of intimacy, right? A reciprocal loving relationship. Not so much just knowing how great he is. I mean, that's pretty great, but that's not the highest. So he's showing us this form, this material universal form, to bring us to the highest, because we have to know, is this really God? Is this really where I should put my whole heart, my whole life in? And Krishna will say, yes, this is, she's showing us his qualification for that. And now, as he gives Arjuna this divine vision, it's something will shift here. Not just in Arjuna, but even in how this whole scene is being described. So the next section is going to take us, the next section, the narrator is going to like zoom out, and we're going to see what's being described here, including Arjuna's reactions to what he's about to see. So we're getting lots of different like viewpoints into this scene. So right now we're kind of zoomed into Arjuna and Krishna. Now we're going to zoom out and kind of see them interacting on the battlefield, and Arjuna's real response when he starts to see this. And this just helps us, again, really understand what's going on here and understand the gravity of the situation, what Arjuna is experiencing. Because again, Arjuna is representing all of us. It's Arjuna's journey, but we can learn and relate and understand through what he's experiencing. And to the degree that we really take that seriously and lean in, we can also have some pretty high realizations. So if we take a step back, I just wanted to cover these 4 verses today because this is a section in and of itself. And the next section will take us to Sanjaya's perspective. He's kind of the narrator. But if we just step back and look at what we covered today, it's actually pointing to something really powerful. Arjuna asked to see everything, not because he doubted. Again, remember, his confusion's gone. He trusts Krishna. He understands who he is. So his request isn't for himself anymore. It's for all of us. So this is the first thing we should see about this chapter. He's setting a standard so that people aren't misled by anyone who just simply claims to be God without being able to demonstrate it. This is the point of this chapter, one of the points of this chapter, what Arjuna's showing us, what Arjuna and Krishna are showing us. And Krishna responds. He reveals this universal form, this complete, overwhelming vision of reality where everything is seen in one place. All of time, all of space, all beings, everything within him. This is something, again, that is unparalleled in any religious text. It's quite this vision of God that's being revealed here. And we're going to see in the next verses, what happens when Arjuna sees this. He's amazed. But then that amazement, it turns into he gets overwhelmed, even a little bit of fear. And eventually what he does is he asks Krishna to return to his personal form. And this tells us something really important, because even though this vision proves Krishna's supremacy, it's not where the relationship rests. It's not what the heart is actually looking for. And that brings it back to us. We often feel like if I could just see everything, if I could just understand why things are happening, what the future holds, how everything is going to work out, then I would feel peaceful. But this section is showing us that even seeing everything isn't actually what gives us peace. No matter how strong you are, how powerful, how influential, these things are not going to give us peace. What we're actually looking for is somebody that we can trust. And this is the deeper message here. Krishna doesn't just establish that he's all powerful. He shows us that he's someone that we can have a relationship with. That's where this is all really going. Someone who, despite having complete control over everything, which he does, he is the most powerful, the most influential. Instead of just relishing in that, Krishna chooses intimacy. He chooses connection. He chooses to reciprocate love. He chooses to go on the battlefield and be Arjuna's servant on the battlefield. This is the person who is the most powerful, the most influential, has the most control. This is what he chooses. Why? Because this is what's most fulfilling to the heart, and this is what he wants us to learn. The takeaway isn't that we need to see everything, that we need to have more control, we need to have more power, we need to be with people that have more of those things. It's that even without seeing all these things, we can be at peace if we learn to trust the one who does. That's what this chapter is really revealing to us. Even without seeing everything, we can be at peace if we learn to trust the one who does. And in that sense, Arjuna's request, it wasn't just about revealing Krishna. It's about helping us understand where real security actually comes from. So there's so much more to this chapter than just what meets the eye. If we just kind of flip it open and read it, it sounds just way far out, way I don't know if I could really lean into that. I certainly can't relate to it. What does this really mean for me? But when we understand it in the context of the journey that Arjuna is taking us on, then it starts to land a little bit, even if some of the details are a little bit far out. Even if you're I still don't really get this whole universal form situation. It's just to really bring home this point that Krishna is all powerful. He's everything. This is him, and he can show it to us in a form if he wants to, because this is what he's everything. But at the same time, don't stop relationship there. Don't stop relationship just in this place of awe of how great God is, because he's great, and we should be in awe of God. But God really wants our hearts. God really wants this close reciprocal relationship with us. And that's where he's taking us with all of this. So what do you guys think? Do you want to share a reflection? There's a lot going on here.
We read in Bhagavad Gita that Krishna is serving Arjun, and we can see that. But when I think about it deeply, isn't he serving us too? I mean, every day, in so many ways that we cannot actually see because we don't have the divine eyes. So that is the reason that they are showing that this verse is also showing that he was given divine eyes. We don't have the divine eyes, but we still have that perception that, look, Krishna is serving us. That's why we are here
Yeah.
in the class also. And, we're going to the retreats, and that is also one of the reasons. I mean, there's so many things that is happening around us. What is that? That is Krishna serving us, trying to keep us
Yes.
on the path that we need to be in this human form. So that is the way I am looking at it.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
And
Even
out of we,
small things like,
yeah,
yeah, like the
small
power
things.
of digestion. Krishna's serving us
Yes,
constantly.
constantly. And we don't need to see the universal form or the opulence. And that is in the beginning you said, it is because there are people who blindly believe everything, and then there are people who want to doubt everything. So this is the show that, okay, here is the opulence. But even Arjun
Yeah,
doesn't want to see that because he is interested in that intimate relationship.
exactly.
So these are the wonderful points today.
Yes, exactly. Perfect. Thank you, Kay. Oh, nice. What do you think, Aaron?
I really love what you just said at the end about like taking shelter of the one who has all these powers, that we don't need to seek them or seek them in others. Giri Govardhan Prabhu talks about like like the fact that we can find like that safety and security when we really realize that Krishna is our ever well wisher, and like that he is doing what is best for us, even when we can't see the plan or the future. Um, and it's interesting to see, like, I feel like there's parts of my life where I'm like, okay, I'll let Krishna, I'll just trust. I can't see where it's going, but like, you know, I believe that, you know, Krishna wants what's best for me. But then other parts of my life where I'm like, wait a minute, let's just give me a little bit of control here and I'll figure it out.
Mm.
um but I do think that's like such a beautiful like encouragement of like what shelter could be. um
Mhm.
and but I have a question. I With the universal form being material, I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit more about that. Because just even thinking of like Krishna's body in the material world is not material. So
Mm.
it's just interesting to think of a form of him that is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. And I think it's just to say that this form, it's not eternal, it's temporary, just like material energy. So it's here for some time and then it's not anymore. And it's manifest and then it's unmanifest. And spiritual energy is eternal. And Krishna's form in the spiritual world is eternal. So it's Krishna's form is always in the material or always in the spiritual world, enjoying his pastimes, this and that. This particular form, the universal form, is not like that. It's here when Krishna chooses to manifest it, and then it's not anymore. So in that regard, it's material, if that makes sense. It's not. It doesn't just like it's not eternally existing. It's just when Krishna chooses to manifest it for some time, and then it's not anymore. Even though it's source, even though Krishna is spiritual. So I understand it's a little bit trippy there, but Krishna also manifests the whole world, and it's material. So it's just a different kind of a form. Yeah, even material is his energy. Yeah, Shraddhanjali saying that in the chat. Yeah, something I really took away from this class when I was preparing for it is sometimes I put so much pressure on myself in this world to like achieve, to do, to be, to hold everything together, to be successful, like in whatever it is. And I can feel myself when I'm getting really kind of like in that kind of material consciousness, where I'm like marrying my value to that. And that's where I feel like I'll experience love. If I'm all those things, then that's what will bring me love. And I can really feel when I start to get seeped into this. And then I can feel the difference when I do things like, like chant or study or read. I can feel the difference of just like being held in this soft, loving relationship. And this is what Krishna is constantly trying to teach us, is that like we don't have to, even though we're naturally going to be attracted to what is powerful, what is great, what is successful, we should understand that that's not what fulfills the heart. That's not where actually happiness lies. And he teaches us that again and again. Ultimately, what's really gonna fill the heart is relationship with God. Relationship, generally speaking, is great, but ultimately, the highest relationship is relationship with God, and that's where we really find fulfillment of the heart. So it's helpful to come back to these things again and again, because if not, we just kind of get into our default mode of our material consciousness. We become a product of our surroundings, our culture, our conditioning, and that can kind of lean the other way. This day and age, especially. What do you think, Stella?
Yeah, it just occurred to me that um that coming from Krishna's side of things, I mean, you can see it sort of sometimes when there's celebrities in the world and they have some kind of like extraordinary power in whatever field, and people flock as fans to them. And it's almost like like when the Beatles are being chased, or something. And but it even for that person who's holding that power, it's not satisfying. Like the mob, the fans could end up tearing you apart just because even if you show your more intimate side, they're still like so focused on the powerful side. And if you fall short in their vision, it's there's no personal, yeah, like even so for the fan or the person who's with a powerful person, you're not feeling that true intimate relationship. But for that person too, in the powerful position, isn't feeling the personal relationship. So, yeah, I was just thinking that it's not just from one side only. It's Krishna's side too. He doesn't. I mean, it's not as fun or as sweet for him to be always in the position of power. I mean, of course it's Krishna, but you often hear stories in the material world of people who get to the very top and then they're lonely because people only see them from that powerful position, and there's no way to get close to that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. What do you think, Nancy?
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for the class, and for everybody being here. I just kept on thinking that this sort of summarizes the whole Gita in some way. The section where there's no doubt that if I want to pray to Hanuman or to this demigod or that for whatever, I'm praying to Krishna, because he's saying that all the demigods are in me, or the fact that there are times when, I have said, well, I can control everything. I really don't need to have God in my life. And like, no, God is always present, past, present, and future, right? So that you're never alone in this world unless you choose to deny it. And that's a really beautiful, beautiful thing, because basically the end of the Gita is, I've shown you all this. Now you decide. You decide. And so it just struck me that this, you can look at it as being it's everything that the Gita is going to be. Not everything, but many of the points that's going to be raised are just in these few verses. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Really nice, beautiful point. And also tying it back to Aaron's question, it's important for God to show us that He is everything, that everything is within Him. But at the same time, that form is not a permanent form, is not an eternal form, because that's not how He wants us to relate to Him eternally. He wants us to know that, to see that, because that's important. But at the same time, He wants us to relate to Him eternally as this close, intimate being, like Stella was saying. So yeah, this chapter really brings everything home, brings everything together. What do you think, Kalachanji?
So many great points. Thank you all. Thank you, Rana. One thing I don't, uh, two things. One, I don't quite I, quite understand. Krishna gives Arjuna spiritual vision to see this. So I guess I'm not understanding the material aspect of it, how it is material. So that's my first question.
Yeah,
But
because
I do understand what you're saying about it's not eternal, it's not permanent, and in that sense,
yeah, yeah, because it requires a spiritual vision to see, divine vision to see.
right, divine vision.
Yeah, it requires divine vision to see, like it requires capacity that's beyond our conditioned senses. So he has to kind of give him access to see that. But that's not necessarily indicative of the same, the quality of what he's seen. It's not like he needs to have spiritual vision to see it because it's spiritual, or it's of spiritual quality. It's not one and the same. Like, we are limited, we are finite, our perception is limited. So he has to give us access to expand our perception, for sure, to be able to see it. Arjuna, he has to give Arjuna access to expand his perception to be able to see it. But that inherently doesn't mean that what he's seeing is of spiritual quality. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Great, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
If I could also two quick things. One is that as you pointed out earlier, like for devotees, we're not so interested in a way in this, but I think for people who have never heard of Bhagavad Gita, so many that I've met, they see this is the culmination of the whole Gita. This is this is the scene. This is and it's Indiana Jones when the Holy Grail gets shown and everybody else gets like turned to ashes except for them. And so I just find those two perspectives really interesting. And it's a very cool scene in that sense, but also I think it's such a beautiful chapter for all the reasons you're saying. For it's not what's not said, but it's like showing the example that we don't need. I just love that whole concept. And I love what you said. Said what we're looking for is someone we can trust. And like, what does that mean? What does it mean to trust someone? And I was thinking, or I didn't have time to think, but it just strikes me that to trust someone means we can show them our whole selves, our whole self, and we won't, without fear of judgment or rejection. And so while Krishna is revealing his universal form, it seems it is really we who are also revealing our hearts, our forms, and showing that's how we can trust by revealing our whole selves. Anyway, I love this chapter. I think it's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. What a really nice, profound way to really see it. Just Krishna's revealing his whole self, and in that we see Krishna is everything. Krishna is everything. He's all powerful. He's the past, the present, the future. This is who my heart has been waiting for forever. So it's such an invitation in. This is an invitation to open your heart and give it to Krishna, because he's been waiting for it. And that's, thank you. Poppy.
Hare Krishna. I,
Hare Krishna.
I'm looking back and I remember when my mom used to preach on my younger days. I'm like, yeah, well, Arjuna had Krishna in his back pocket and on the dial, speed dial, so it makes sense to how he can easily depend and build a faith versus like me, I'm still in this stage where I'm like, Krishna, prove me you're there. Take care of me this right now. And I have the demands like on my terms. And I feel like that approach like doesn't allow me, I think, further into this. Yes, I wanted to know how can I or someone who is looking from that framework, how can we, change that or work towards increasing faith and not just looking at it like, well, yeah, it's easy for the Pandavas and Arjuna because they had access to Krishna, but I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great question. Just to see what, Krishna's hanging out with all of them. So of course it's easy for them to see him. Yeah, but at the same time, there's so many stories in scriptures where people had his direct association and they still couldn't see him or accept him as God. So in that way, for us to see that, it might look very obvious, and it might impel us to say, well, he's not right here in my living room or in my back pocket, like you said. How it's not so easy for me to see him. But the reality is, Krishna is as accessible as to the degree that we turn towards Krishna, he's fully accessible for us. And we see that in scriptures time and time again. Again, people are just so set in their ways, so determined, so materialistic, that even though Krishna is sitting right in front of them, they can't see him. Like Duryodhana, so many stories around this. So this is really what we should see, and we should take as the point. And I know you said, okay, I get that, but how do I do that practically? Well, Krishna gives us so many ways in this age to approach him. One is chanting japa, meditation. We chant this mantra on beads, and to the degree again that we do it with intention and we show up, we experience that relationship. Yeah, Nancy's saying name, form, association. Exactly. And I know, Poppy, I've seen you in bliss, in a kirtan, or in association of devotees. I've seen you just so elevated. That's Krishna. That's Krishna. And in those moments, we have to be able to see it like that. That's not you. That's not the circumstance. That's not beautiful Costa Rica. Those things might help facilitate an experience, but ultimately that upliftment that you're feeling in your heart when you engage in those spiritual practices is Krishna sitting right next to you saying, hey, I'm here. Right? But what happens is we go back to our lives, we go back to our old habits, we go back to our conditioning, and we don't see him anymore. And then we blame him, but we have to understand that's our mind taking over. Right? That's our lives getting cluttered. That's us not making any space. That's us just not seeing him when he's sitting right next to us, because he's also sitting right next to us, just like he is. And maybe we don't literally see him with our eyes like Arjuna does, but he's always here. And we have to make those steps closer to him. We have to chant, we have to be in association, we have to come to things like this. And to the degree that we do, and we do it sincerely with that intention to connect with Krishna, we will, and we'll experience that intimacy. It's available for us. It's available for us. Does that make sense, Poppy? And sometimes when we forget, it can help ourselves to remember a time that we really felt spiritually high. We really felt spiritually high, and to connect the dots. That wasn't us. That wasn't what you did. That was Krishna.
Yeah, I think I call myself part-time or flex staff in Bhakti Path, where I feel like when things are going in my way, I'm like Hare Krishna, and when things aren't, I'm like, where are you? Do you exist? And my faith gets shaken. But I'm working on it. I just feel like my faith in Krishna just kind of bounce back and forth. And then again, I also know that I am not fully showing up. Yeah, thank you. That's very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the difference, The difference is how much we're showing up because Krishna's always there, but our mind blocks it, blocks that connection. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Anybody else before we end for the day? Okay. Okay, my friends. Well, thank you for coming and for sharing your reflections and being here, showing up because this is part of our relationship with Krishna. Showing up, discussing him in the association of like-minded devotees, sharing our struggles and just trying and trying because that's what a lot of spiritual life is. We just keep trying. Not always going to be perfect. We're going to struggle. We're going to fall short. We're going to fall off sometimes, but just get right back up. We just keep trying. And that's what we have this community to encourage each other in that journey. So thank you all for encouraging me and inspiring me, and I will see you all on Monday. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.